So today we're going to be discussing the Watergate scandal. We've been learning and talking and discussing both in class and online about President Nixon's presidency. Today we will be discussing the end and final stage of his presidency with his almost impeachment and resignation. However, first, I would like you guys to jot down a few, as a warm-up, jot down a few of thoughts in response to the following questions and be ready to discuss tomorrow the following questions. What knowledge do you have of scandals associated with prominent people? By prominent people, I mean athletes, actors, actresses, famous people, people that are in the public eye. There's been quite a few over the past year in sports that I can think of, but I want you guys to come up with your own. Secondly, was the scandal personal or did it involve the public trust? Meaning, I want to hear you tell me, I want to see, was it something that just involved this person personally, say just them and their family, or did it involve the public trust? Meaning you, myself, the American people. Thirdly, what were the repercussions of the scandal? By repercussions, I mean what were the consequences of this scandal? And then lastly, did the scandal diminish the accomplishments of the person or people involved? By that, I mean, using an athlete as an example, did it take away from what that athlete had accomplished prior to this scandal? First off, I will give a little bit of background, although we have done this and we have talked about it a little bit in class. The Watergate scandal was a major political scandal that occurred in the United States during the 1970s and lasted a little over 2 years. As a result, the result of the scandal occurred on June 17, 1972, when there was a break-in in the National Democratic Committee headquarters, the DNC, at the Watergate office complex, which gave it the name the Watergate Scandal. This was located in Washington, D.C. The major issue was that Nixon's administrators were thought to have covered up the involvement and had hired the people to go into the headquarters to get information. When the conspiracy was discovered and investigated by the Congress, the Nixon administrations resisted heavily to the probes of information, which basically led to what was deemed a constitutional crisis. What led up to the end of President Nixon's presidency and the Watergate scandal? First off, there was an event called, or an instance that was called, the Saturday Night Massacre. It was given this term because on a Saturday night on October 20th, 1973, many of Nixon's executive administrators were either resigned or were fired or dismissed. You do not have to remember these names, one of which was Archibald Cox. They either, like I said, were either dismissed from their position or they resigned. Basically, they had too much information on what had occurred at Watergate, and so Nixon either fired them or they resigned, so they couldn't give up any information. After this happened, the thought was to impeach Nixon. Many Americans felt a extreme lack of trust for Nixon and wanted his impeachment. During this process, Nixon held on to his executive privilege. He said basically he did not have to give up the tapes that the Senate committee was trying to get their hands on, which could incriminate him or prove that he is guilty of wiretapping the Democrats' offices or asking or calling for tapping of offices. The Senate committee says, I don't think so. You're not doing that. We want the tapes. So Nixon basically handed over the tapes, and there was very incriminating information on the tapes, which led to Nixon finally resigning. Next, what we will do, and what I want you guys to do, is again jot down a few notes that we will go over tomorrow in class on the following political cartoons. Political cartoons were huge and very prominent during this time period. So I picked a few that I think you guys would like, and I want you to kind of pull. It's kind of like a Where's Waldo of politics. I want you guys to pull from these cartoons what you think they were trying, what's the point that they were trying to get across. This is the first one. And like I said, you guys can go back and look at these cartoons, but I want you to jot down, what do you see? Who do you think this is? What do you think certain things mean in the cartoon? And then the second one, this one I liked because I'm a fan of Lord of the Rings. Obviously, this was written or drawn more recently. But I want you guys to pull from this what you think is relevant to the scandal. What was the artist trying to get across to you, the viewer? That's pretty much it for today. Like I said, we will go over your thoughts tomorrow that you have jotted down, and we'll get more in depth on some of your opinions, thoughts, and information on the scandal.